Welcome back to another edition of the Course Creation Incubator Podcast. I'm your host, Gina Onativia, here to help you get your course out there in the most efficient way possible. Because I want you to get your online course out to market. I want you welcoming your first students or additional students through the door. And I want you building up the business of your dreams. And I know sometimes the fears creep up whenever you're starting something new or you're putting yourself out there. You heard Elaine Travis talk about it last week. She had a lot of buts that she had to get over. She had to get over those fears. And different coaches, including myself, helped her with that. And I think sometimes you've got to face the fears for what they are. So my son Tristan just turned 9. I cannot believe it. Where did the time go? And he's really into these warrior books by an author named Erin Hunter. And she writes about these warrior cats with these crazy names like Tiger Star, Jay Feather, and Squirrel Flight. These books drive me crazy because of the names. And one night, Tristan confided in me that he was scared because one of the bad guys in the book was a stoat, S-T-O-A-T. And he says to me, they sound scary. They sound awful and mean. And I said to him, well, do you even know what a stoat is? And he's like, I don't even know. And I said, let's look it up. And we look it up, and you know what a stoat is? It's a weasel type animal, and it is adorable. So I showed Tristan the pictures on my phone, and we have a chuckle about it because it was something that he was so afraid of. And all of a sudden he's like, oh, that's the cutest thing I've ever seen. So I think sometimes we have these fears, and if we just did a little bit of research or even confronted them a little bit, we'd realize they shouldn't be fears after all. So if you've got a fear around building or marketing your course or putting yourself out there, think about how you can do a little bit of research and turn that fear into something cute and cuddly. And now, speaking of fears, I know one of the biggest ones, because I talk to my students all the time, and I'm talking to my accelerator students right now, and some of them are recording, and that recording process, that's where some of that fear creeps in. And then I was recording a brand new 4-part video series, my online course Jumpstart. I walk through 4 big questions that I feel like anyone who's starting off and wants a best-selling course, these are the questions to start with. So I've just released it. I'll link to it in the show notes. And it's 4 videos. It's a 4-video training. And I'll be honest, it's been a little while since I recorded videos, and some fear was bubbling up for me. My team kept asking me to record these videos, and I was dragging my feet for a few weeks. And once I faced it and I recorded it, I felt so much better for the process. And I thought, of course, what was I so afraid of? It was my own personal stoat, right? So there's a couple of distinctions I made along the way while I was recording this video training that I thought would be helpful, and I want to share them today. So we're going to talk through 4 ways to really break through those recording fears. And first and foremost, thinking through how you want to record. So much of the fear of recording is the unknown. So as much as you can plan as part of the process, the better you will be for it. So what kind of material are you prepping with? So do you have bullet points? Do you have word-for-word scripts? Do you have a combination of both? Or maybe you're calling out the stories and examples. For me, when I recorded this video series, I had word-for-word scripts that I was working off of. And for a few weeks, I would study those scripts. And then I made a conscious decision not to go word for word when I was presenting the content. So I would study the script, I would take a break, and then I would riff. I knew my steps, I knew my overall structure, and you guys know me, I like to workshop. So I knew I had my steps and my examples and my stories, but other than that, I just went for it. I gave myself the freedom to fill the space. And I also knew ahead of time that I was going to cut in full screen graphics. So I knew I could break up the material because I planned for it. And I knew those FSGs, those full screen graphics, would help cover all of my blunders. So even though I didn't have another camera to cut to, I knew I could cut to those graphics. So I knew I could pause. So for some of you, that might sound really scary. Like, are you crazy, lady? I'm not going to just riff on camera in terms of my content for my course. So that might not work for you, but that's okay. Think about recording with a teleprompter or using those bullet points. And then you could have a big stage sign or a big screen in front of you that has the different bullets that you want to hit. That's a great way to record as well. You need to figure out what works for you. What are you comfortable with? Each and every one of you is unique in how you film. I always talk about course creation is not one size fits all, and the same goes for your recording. And that's why in this 6-week accelerator, we talk through what's the right way for you to record. And I actually, as part of your homework, see a snippet of you recording because I want to see how the process works for you. So much about course creation and marketing is figuring out that process and figuring out what's a unique path that really works for you in terms of how you want to deliver for your students. I've talked about this story before. When I worked for Tony Robbins, a lot of content developers tried to change Tony because he had some intense demands, as you can imagine. So they tried to change up his schedule or how he wanted to deliver content. And that just didn't work. Instead of accommodating what he needed. And then Pam Hendrickson, my mentor, came in and said, no. We need to accommodate what Tony needs. We need to work around his structure and his framework and support him. So it's the same for you. So that's number one. Figure out the process that really works for you in terms of your scripting, how you want to deliver, how you want to prep. My second tip is to give yourself the space to record and add some time. Pad your time. Whatever you think you're going to take to record, add time to it. So for my videos, I had a half day. I had an afternoon into a night. The boys were going to be out. Tristan and Alex were going to be out of the house. So I thought this is going to be the perfect time. And of course, I had it recorded in a while, which I didn't realize or I didn't budget for. And it took me longer than anticipated. I should have thought of it, but it didn't occur to me. Now, I was a little bit arrogant maybe too. So it took me longer. I thought, I'm just going to whip through these 4 videos. I was only able to record 2 though. So I got 2 done out of the 4. And then the boys got home and I started putting a lot of pressure on myself to get the rest done. After dinner, I tried to sit back down and record additional videos, those few last videos, because this is the time I had allocated to get them done. And I was really forcing it. I had to go back to Alex, back to my hubby and say, you know what? I'm totally forcing this right now. This is not how the creative process should be. I'm going to sleep on it and I'm going to wake up and record those final videos. And that's exactly what I did because I gave myself the space to do that. I wasn't putting the pressure on myself to just get it done. And trust me, I've been to film shoots where there was a time crunch and the course creator felt like they just had to get it done. And it is not conducive to a great product. So you want to give yourself that kind of space to record in the right way. Make the space to get the best creative process out of you. So if you think it's going to take an afternoon, maybe budget a couple of afternoons or a couple of mornings. Better to budget extra space and time. And by the way, if I'm planning film shoots, we always do this. Chris from Infrastructure Productions, he's been on the podcast. We always budget extra time because we know things get in the way. Sometimes it's setting up the equipment. Sometimes it's the emotions that get away. So I was emotional. I felt like I was forcing the issue. And you have to accommodate that space, right? And what bubbles up. Okay. You've got to know that recording can be an emotional process. Like when you think it needs to be perfect or you have to deliver in a certain way and you put that kind of pressure on yourself. So just give yourself the space to do that. Also know your recording ritual. So I know for me, I drink a ton of water. I walk around, I dance a little bit. I get my energy up. And that might be the same for you. It might be totally different. I was talking to another expert, this is the other day, about her creative writing process. So not recording, but writing. So creative process overall. And she talked about how she needed to feel calm and collected before she wrote as part of her creative process. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I could never record or even write after feeling calm and collected. That's just not my jam. That's not my vibe. But for her, that's what she needed. So I just thought that is so cool. We're all so unique in our creative process, in our rituals, and then how we get it done. So think about what's that creative process, what's that ritual, the preparation ritual look like for you. My third tip is to get some help in the filming process. So I have my hubby, I have Alex, who always makes sure I'm filming the best quality program. He helps me with my lighting, with my backdrops. He helps me test my audio. Before I hopped on for this podcast, he was helping me with my mic and with my camera. So Alex helps me with that process, and I'm really grateful. He's far more tech savvy than I am, and he's much more patient. So I love getting his help. It's really, really important when I'm doing my filmings and my recordings. And then to watch your actual program, to watch your footage, I do leave it to my team. Now, I know some of you don't have a team yet, and I've talked to many of you who your family is helping out. You've got sons and daughters and sisters and moms who are pitching in. I just talked to a few people last week, and one woman had her mom and her daughter who was helping her. I was like, this is so great. Okay, so who can help you watch your footage and suggest edits and maybe do the edits for you? Because I know how hard it is to watch yourself on video. So if you can get somebody else to watch it, to quality control it, to do the edit, then even better. Because I want them to remind you that done is better than perfect. So I know I flubbed up a bunch of times during that 4-part series. Now, most of the time I tried to redo it, but if I didn't, I thought if the content was really good and I get the transformation to my students, I'm going to leave it in there. Because I know you guys want the transformation. You want that promise. You want that workshop. And that's what I'm delivering. So if I do that and I flub a couple of lines, that's okay. So remind yourself that it's okay to flub. Okay? You've got this, and people just want the content from you. All right, my fourth and final tip, well, I've just kind of given it to you guys, I've rolled right into it, is to give yourself grace. Because you're going to do better than you think. It's always better than you think. You are your own worst critic. Like I said, I flubbed a bunch of times, but I know the content is good. It's juicy. It's what the people want, okay? So as long as you're delivering the transformation, it's great. Forgive yourself for those little quirks, because I promise you, your course creation student will not care. Hopefully, these recording tips were helpful for you, as I was just in your chair a few weeks ago. And check out that online course Jumpstart and answer those 4 questions. It's an awesome program to really get you started on your journey to a best-selling course. Please subscribe if you're enjoying these podcasts and make sure you don't miss one workshop or a guest. And next week, speaking of guests, I've got an accelerator grad on who has a really fascinating journey to course creation that started with a study that took her, wait for it, 7 years. Okay, it took her 7 years to complete this study, and then just 6 weeks to get her course done. Oof, love it. So Kelly Hillcove will be on the podcast next week to talk about all the learnings that she picked up along the way. Also, finally, leave me a review. If you feel like this podcast has made an impact on you, I would love for you to leave me a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Okay, until next week, go create, be you and be brilliant, and get it done.